All right.
Was that guy a real guy?
Sorry?
Was Buddha a real person?
The Buddha, no, he wasn't real. He was like Pinocchio.
You know, this wonderful story about the young prince who leaves the palace and encounters old age and sickness and death, and it's a captivating story, and it's all made up.
Maybe. So, let's start from the beginning. It starts with a woman being pregnant. And it's a healthy pregnancy. Especially if you're physically and emotionally and mentally healthy, then you're going to appreciate the fact that you are in fact pregnant and you're carrying this child healthily and you're going to soon be a mother. It's a fantastic world to be in. For the first time, you really begin to understand how it feels to create something from within that belongs to you. And the connection between you and this unborn child is profoundly strong. And all of a sudden you realize that, and you don't really much care about society, you don't much care about politics, you don't much care about the city in which you live, you don't much care about your companion, you don't much care about, whether you live in a 1-bedroom or a 5-bedroom, but the moment you have a child, all of a sudden, you realize the only thing you think about is, how am I going to raise this kid? Is he or she going to be raised in a safe environment, comfortable environment, clean environment? It doesn't happen to fathers. It happens to them much, much later. But for mothers, it happens at such an early stage. So for those of you in this class who haven't talked to your moms, you should pick up your phone right now and call her and have me talk to her as well, to tell her what a great student you are. Anyways, and there is something also about women, the moment they have children. It grounds them. It connects them so tightly to the physical world. They want to make sure there is enough money for their child. They want to know that the city they live in doesn't have very much violence, poverty, doesn't smell bad, doesn't look bad. Men don't have those feelings. Men don't have those attachments. Women do. And in many ways, what is to the advantage of women who are to be mothers is that men are wanderers. They can never really find stability. If you pay attention to the people we talk about in this class, if you eventually buy the book that Karen has suggested, most of the people you read about are men. In fact, all of them are. You rarely find a woman who kind of walks away from life and finds herself in the desert saying that I really want to understand truth or God or this or that. You don't find them. Because women can find meaning by simply becoming mothers. It doesn't matter if they're a good mother or a bad mother, but they become mothers. And they spend the entirety of their life making sure that their child is okay. I am almost a 60-year-old man. My mom is almost a 70 or 80-year-old woman. She calls me every single day. She doesn't know what else to do with her life. And I'm not talking about modern women, perhaps. Just maybe 50, 60 years ago, the role that was given to women by society, by culture, by religion, by tradition, is that as a woman, you go out a couple times, you marry, you become a mother. There isn't much else to do for you out there. The world doesn't really have much to offer you except motherhood. And it's a privilege to be a woman and to be a mother, because you have meaning for the rest of your life. No mother-to-be enjoys hearing that her son is going to live in poverty, that her son is going to suffer loneliness, that her son is going to suffer enormously. And that's exactly what happened. So you have, for those of you in this class who will one day become mothers, and that's exactly what's going to happen to you. You happen to be a CEO, you happen to be working 5 days a week for 30, 40, 50, 70 hours, and the moment you realize that you're pregnant and you're ready to be a mother, you go to your boss and you either say, I can only work 10, 15, 20 hours a week or I quit. Because you want to be there for your child. And if money had no importance for you, it suddenly does. If a physical container called a house or an apartment didn't have any importance for you, now it does. If your man used to smoke and drink and watch a lot of porn in front of you, if that didn't bother you at all, now it does. Because for the first time you realize life is far bigger than you. It's about your child now. It's about innocence. It's about purity. Okay. So again, remember, the story of the Buddha is not really a story, it's an epic. It's what every person goes through, a woman as well as a man. Okay? So for those of you in this class who once in a while go out there, live in the world and suffer because of it, this particular epic has all the answers for you, as did the epic of Gilgamesh, as did the philosophy of Hinduism. So as this pregnant woman is walking around Lakeshore, a strange-looking woman, they just call her Karen. Oh, not you, different Karen. Runs into her and says, I'm very sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And this young woman says, I don't even know you, get lost. You know how people are in Oakland, they're all semi-crazy. And she says to this young woman that you're carrying a son, and he's either going to be part of this world or he's going to reject this world. I think in many ways the woman is wrong, because all of us in this class, there are moments you wake up and you're happy and you embrace your life. And there are moments you wake up and you're just miserable. You don't really know why. You haven't done anything, but as Kafka would say, you're just condemned. And depression, sadness, loneliness all of a sudden come up upon you, even though you haven't really done anything wrong. And all of a sudden you realize you were happy just 5 minutes ago. Why is it? Chris. The truth is, Chris really should be teaching this class tonight because he's a master Buddhist. So beforehand, I apologize if I say anything wrong about the Buddha. May I share with them? He used to live in a monastery. In fact, her mother used to be a nun in a Zen Buddhist monastery. Then she fell in love with her master. What was his name? Bido? And they had tantric sex. And Chris was the product. So he lived in the monastery for 15 years. And then one day, as he went to get some coffee from Pete's, for the first time he saw a creature categorized women. And from that point on, he never pursued the Buddha. Instead, he pursued the woman. So he has read all the books that have ever been written on Buddhism. So just in case you really want to know a thing or two about Buddhism, catch him after class and harass him. So the first thing you need to know about the message given to this young mother is the following. And remember, the message is for her son, not her daughter. So if you're a woman in this class, the life of the Buddha does not apply to you. His teaching may. And his teaching applies to you not because you seek truth or enlightenment. His teachings are good for you because you can understand your physical life better. And then you can govern your physical life better. So when Karen looks at this woman and says, you have a son, what he's saying is all men, and on occasion, if you happen to be an extremely unique woman, okay, all men usually find themselves in two camps. And there's a great amount of psychic tension, conflict. You enjoy living in Oakland, around people. You enjoy the liveliness of the city and all the pleasures and comforts it provides. But you also enjoy going to Yosemite, living amongst the woods. Pass by the swimming pool on campus, there is the estuary. Lots of trees and shrubs. There's this nice pool of water, some ducks floating on it. And there is usually no one there, especially early morning. And if you happen to be somewhat reflective, you ask yourself, what the hell am I doing in Oakland? Why don't I just go to Target, steal a couple of tents and backpacks, and just move to Yosemite? Just live free like Enkidu. So if you're a man, and once in a while you wake up and you hate yourself, and then you wake up and you love yourself or like yourself, if you look at your companion and love him, and then you wake up the next day, you're trying to figure out how to escape the relationship, welcome to the life of a man. So you have the same story that you find in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Your son will either be Gilgamesh or he'll be Enkidu. If he becomes Gilgamesh, he will live in the city. He will become corrupted by the powers given to him by the city. He will forget what it means to be human. But in forgetting what it means to be human, he will have money. He will have power. He will have a Tesla. He will go to school. His life on a physical level will be profoundly meaningful. Parents don't care about your spiritual growth. Parents want to make sure you go to school. You get a job. You make money. You buy a nice house. You have health care. What mother enjoys being told that her son is going to be plunged into poverty? First, psychological poverty and then physical poverty. Because just in case you fall victim to psychological poverty, nothing in the physical world can ever nourish you. Imagine those moments when you and I fall in love. It is psychological, emotional. And then your companion leaves you without telling you why, without leaving you a note. He just says, I'm out. What happens to you? The world is a big place. is a gigantic entertainment environment. Where do you go? You are restless. No place can hold you. You can't contain anything. I have a friend. She took this class some years ago, and 2 weeks later she dropped the class. She said, I come to this class and you make me feel bad because I reflect and I come to realize that perhaps there is really nothing in life worth pursuing. Everything is hollow. While you're in the cradle of pleasure, it's really, really fun. But when the pleasure ends and you're forced to think back about the pleasure and the pursuit and the energy and the effort, you ask yourself, why? And so she dropped the class and she just went home with her husband and a few children. And then 2 nights after, she wakes up and she says, I need to go back to the class. And all of a sudden she finds herself back in the class. These ideas really have only one function: to contaminate us and to ruin our physical life and physical pleasures. That's their only function, really. They have no other function. It's like they hold before us a carrot and we are the donkey. And they tell us if you do A, B, C, D, you will eventually reach the carrot. Eat the carrot. And it's delicious. And all of us pursue it. So, being told that her son will choose one of the two paths, the world or the desert, she is horrified. She is a mother. She goes to her husband and says, I ran into a weirdo called Karen. And she says to me that I don't even know her, and yet she knew somehow I was pregnant. And somehow she also knew that it's going to be a son. And she gave me this horrible news that they're just going to run away from us, eventually hate us, find himself in the desert. What does the father do? Now, for those of you in this class who go to your parents in hopes that they understand you, that's not their business. Don't be stupid. The function of parents are very, very, very simple. You have shelter, you have clothes, and you have food. And for them to give you those three components, they need to work from 5 in the morning until 10 at night. When the father hears this news, he's not going to entertain the spiritual quest of this young kid named Siddhartha. He wants to make sure that this kid goes to school, graduates, buys a car, buy a house, get married, have children, live his life, and then die. So for those of you in this class who sometimes, say awful things about your parents, please. We have a saying in the Persian world. It's no longer applicable today because money comes to all of us so easily and cheaply without much effort. For young folks today, perhaps, that you have to draw water from stones. You know, when you look at a rock or a stone, there is nothing in it. And what they're saying, it's a metaphor. That money, security, physical security, used to be immensely difficult. Now, before we continue, let me also share with you what Karen tells this woman. Because the woman, this mother-to-be, asks, Karen, is there a way I can make sure that my son doesn't become poor in spirit, doesn't become poor in psychology, doesn't become poor in emotions, that he always remains attracted to the physical world? That he can find meaning, identity, relevance in this world. I don't want him to turn out to be Moses. Moses could have had the throne. Why the hell did he have to reflect? You could have stayed married. Why must you examine the nature of human relationships? Why must you long to be in love? You're almost done with your school. Why must you examine, reflect, and harass your own psyche by asking, what's the meaning of this education? Why can't you just be happy instead of being discontent? And that is what this mother-to-be is asking Karen. I don't want my son to leave me. How do I make him stay? It's very simple. Very, very, very simple. Make sure he never sees what is at the very core of life. Next time you go out on date, and it happens to be your first date, and the guy or the gal happens to be enormously attractive, look at them. But don't imagine them sitting on a toilet bowl. Because if you keep imagining your attractive date on a toilet bowl shitting or suffering from diarrhea, I doubt very much there'll be a second date. Look into his eyes and see yourself married to him. That is what keeps your relationship going. Hello, Linda. And she asks, well, what are these realities of life? It's all around you and yet you don't see them. The woman asks, curiosity. Are you telling me as a mother you look around and you can't see what's at the very core of life? This young mother-to-be says, no, I'm far too stupid. Enlighten me. Sure. Old age. And we'll go through them one by one and then give some comments about it. When you get old, you get sick, then you die. A miserable death. Did you know about 80% of the people they get really, really sick and then they die. We've always had this prayer in the Middle East that I hope I die in my sleep. When you go to South America, they put death in 3 different categories. It may exist in Colombia, I don't know. There is a thing called good death, bad death, and a miserable death. The good death is you live your life. You get to be her age, my age, her age. And you have a family, you have a relatively comfortable life. Not without hiccups, of course, because no one is exempt from pain and suffering. But your life is relatively comfortable and you're healthy physically, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, spiritually. And then you look at your wife or husband, you say, good night, enjoy the movie, I'll see you tomorrow. And then you just don't wake up. It's a great way to die. No hospitals, no medicines, no tubes. You don't have to look at your husband and say, when I die, who's going to take care of him? You don't have to look at your kids and say, when I die, what's going to happen to them? It's a good death. A bad or a tragic death is, most of you in this class are 19, 20, 30, 40. You're young. You're ambitious. Belinda is doing her PhD in public health or health of the public. Chris wants to build a monastery in Oakland that's bigger and more beautiful than the Mormon church that you see on top of the hill. Almost all of you young folks in this room have dreams. It'd be really, really awful if those dreams were not to come true because of unexpected death. A 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old. Benjamin wants to get himself back to a 4-year school. He loves the forest. He wants to grow plants. Good plants.
Non-invasive.
Of course. Non-invasive. Plants that inspire inspiration and creativity and visions of sorts. That's a good life. Not really, but is it a text? Oh, don't be sorry. So tragic death. I don't know if Karen has any hopes, dreams anymore. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just hopes and dreams for a quick, healthy death. I don't know. I don't know if Rebel has any dreams. I certainly don't. I just want to make sure that my death is going to be painless and quick. But young people, they need to be given a chance to live out their dreams. And if they don't, it's called a tragic death. And then there is this thing called bad death. It's about 80% of people on this planet. Just get sick. Just don't recover from the sickness. And then you can't walk, then you can't talk. Then you have to hire someone like Stacy. She has to clean you, feed you. You want to be alive, but it's painful. You want to die, but you have no idea what's waiting for you on the other side. But you die with a good amount of pain. For those of you in this class who have read Tolstoy's novel, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, You know, Ivan Illich is a judge. And he had just been given a promotion. And he's happy. He goes to his wife and he says, "We're going to make an extra $200,000 a year," and the wife is extremely happy. His kids are happy. But one morning he wakes up and he pukes blood. He goes to the doctor and says, "You have cancer, stage 8. And he comes to realize that his job doesn't mean anything. After a while, his kids are tired of visiting him and they no longer do. His wife, in private, says, "I don't know why he doesn't die anymore. He's got nothing to live for. He's not going to get any better. Why can't he die?" And that's one thing you need to know about people who get really, really, really sick. People around them will lose the capacity to be compassionate. All of us have only a certain capacity to give without receiving anything back. But there comes a point where you're just overfull.